listeners, and welcome back to the Internet Marketing and Business Solutions radio show with Ronald Couming from RCS Technology Solutions and RCS Online Solutions, where we help business owners and entrepreneurs attract, convert, and retain their ideal customers and clients using various Internet marketing techniques and methods to achieve even greater success. The purpose of this show is to bring on a couple of subject matter experts in the first two sections to help business owners achieve greater success by cutting through some of the pitfalls. By learning and hearing from people who have already achieved success, it can help you gain without having to go through all the tribulation. So, and then in the third section, I give away free tips and advice. Today, we are blessed to have with us Kevin Harrington. And Kevin Harrington, as many of you know, probably doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyhow. Kevin Harrington is known as a global leader, innovator, and marketing genius. Well, he is one of the most successful entrepreneurs in U.S. history. His impact on the success of others worldwide is unparalleled. Kevin is the pioneer and principal architect of the infomercial industry and the original Shark Tank ABC hit show, Shark Tank. He has launched more than 500 products, resulting in a total sales of over $4 billion, with 20 products with sales exceeding $100 million each. Kevin is one of the former chairmen of As Seen on TV, Inc. He is a founding board member of ERA, which is Electronic Retailers Association, which is now in 45 countries, and EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, which has more than 10,000 members around the world, with a total member sales of over $500 billion. Today, Kevin is the founder and CEO of Star Shop, a Sprint-owned mobile app featuring celebrity-endorsed products worldwide with founders of global leader organizations. GLO is a platform for owners, CEOs, and investors to do more business together. Good morning, Kevin.
Hey, Ronald, thanks for that great intro. It's great to be here today.
Thank you so much for blessing us with your presence and your knowledge. You're certainly going to enlighten the listeners with some great stuff. Is there anything in that intro that I didn't cover that you'd like to let the listeners know?
Well, you know, I'll say this. I've been an entrepreneur for 45 years now. So, you know, generally intros talk about all the good stuff. I'll say that, you know, there's been a few deals along the way that didn't work. Many of those, you know, but that's what makes an entrepreneur an entrepreneur. And I think what excites me about our conversation today is that, you know, I've been in this As Seen on TV business for 30 plus years, and now TV viewership is down by 50% in the last 10 years. So, you know, your show features and talks about internet and some of the things going on there. This is a direction that I've had to go in over the last number of years. So I'm glad to see that we're going to be able to kind of bring some nuggets to the table today for anyone listening that might be interested in hearing about what's kind of the future of entrepreneurship. So that's I think maybe what we may be touching on a little bit today. So excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Excellent, and thank you very much. And I want to say my thoughts of some of the material I've heard from you, but I also want to let the listeners know that it's one thing to be a businessman and to be a successful businessman, but to actually get in there and know the nuts and bolts. When I listened to Grant Cardone, Grant Cardone, you were on the 10X, and I believe you were the very first person that got up.
Correct.
And and when you spoke and you started speaking about geofencing and you started speaking about all these things, I mean, the true geek in me, right, came right out. I was like, wow, you know what I mean? Now, I knew about these things, right, but to know of someone of your level to actually get into the nuts and bolts of the technology is just, I mean, it's a testament to how you've gotten there. But a lot of times we see or we think of business people as people who sit behind desks and they have a lot of other people around, but you're actually somebody who gets into it and knows what to do and knows the material inside and out. So again, kudos to you. And I listened to that a few times, and like I said, the geek in me came right out.
Well, thank you. When I think that the true definition of an entrepreneur, it's not only just controlling your destiny and your time and doing your own thing, but it's also being able to move and shake and change as the market is shifting. The best entrepreneurs are those that are finding new ground and new directions to go as things opportunities come and go and shift, as I mentioned. So it's good to talk about some geek stuff here today. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just appreciate it. More so just because you're not just somebody who's achieved success. You actually, you know what you're talking about on a fundamental level, not just a theoretical level. So that's one of the things I really appreciate about you. But please feel free to tell us anything you like. Tell us about yourself and so what you're working on, and maybe, like you said, some of the deals that didn't work out and how you bounced back, what you learned from that, and anything else you'd like to share with us.
Well, so I think when you look at the marketplace, and I go back, 30 plus years ago, I was a young entrepreneur just watching the Discovery Channel. I had just got cable TV, and all of a sudden the screen went dark, and they put bars up on the screen for 6 hours. And when I called the cable company to find out what was happening, they said, "Oh, Discovery's only a 6 hour a day." And rather an 18-hour-a-day channel. There's 6 hours a day of downtime. And that's when the light bulb went off, and I call it my first eureka moment that changed my life. I then went to the cable company and said, let me put products on there, and let's share in the revenues. And that was the birth of the infomercial industry as it is today. So we started doing kitchen products and the Food Saver, and then we did fitness products with guys like Tony Little, and then we were back in the kitchen with Jack LaLanne and George Foreman and all kinds of crazy and successful people, and Billy Mays, and we branded some of these folks. But now that then grew into a global industry. We run those infomercials, dub them into foreign languages, and run them in over 100 countries around the world now. So that is it's a $100+ billion industry now, and I'm proud to say that it all started back in the early '80s, just watching a little Discovery Channel go dark. So now let's fast forward to today. Here we are today, and yeah, infomercials are still out there, but the millennials are not sitting around watching 30-minute infomercials, right? You've got to move and shake with the marketplace. And so the other thing I mentioned earlier is that as viewership has dropped on TV, what does an entrepreneur do? Well, from my side, what I do is I follow the eyeballs. Where are the viewers going? What are they doing? Well, they're spending quite a bit of time on Facebook and social media channels. So now, can you just take a 30-minute infomercial and move it over to Facebook? No, you have to change the way that you sell, but ultimately we're still utilizing a lot of the techniques and strategies and fundamentals of selling, but we just had to take 30-minute shows, cut them down into, literally, 2-minute, 3-minute, 4-minute pods, and then create these selling relationships on the social media channels. And also there's a little strategy that that's kind of a content creation strategy that works in the world of social media also, where you can do a little softer selling in some distribution platforms. So bottom line, I think, is that the fundamentals of people launching new products that have unique positioning is what I do. And now we use all forms of distribution, including now, I look at these morphings into social media not as a downside. I look at it as an upside, that we used to do pretty much just TV and then take them into retail. Now we do social media and TV and of course, we've always used radio. This radio is a very powerful medium, and use all these forms of distribution to create the brands behind the products that we have. So I actually see the change in the marketplace as a win-win for marketers like myself, as well as consumers who kind of get to spend time where they want to. They're not forced to just have to watch just TV all the time. They get to kind of spend time where their fancies desires are. So anyway, I think that it's just a little bit of the shifting marketplace, and as I said, I see it as a great opportunity to be able to connect with those customers and fans on these local platforms like social media.
I love it, and I agree with you. Adapting, and I forget who it was. Might have been Albert Einstein, but he spoke about the survival. The species that survival is the one that can adapt to much and evolve with change. And that's how we as humans have survived so long. So I love the fact that you talk about you kind of like rolling with the punches. When the times change, see it for what it is. You can't change it. You can't beat a dead horse. You got to get off that. I mean, if you had some success in one area and it worked, but the world is changing, the platforms are changing, and how people are digesting things and where they're going for their information has changed. You got to see that, and you got to roll with it. But I'd like to go back a second, and when you talked about the bars on the Discovery Channel, seeing that opportunity, seeing that blank slate, and then just seeing a vision and having a vision and then putting it together, reaching out and speaking to people and getting products and doing some type of revenue share as a way to defer your costs, get the airfare, the airtime, and grow. And then also the story with Tony Little. I don't think people know. I mean, here's another. First of all, with the Discovery Channel, you saw a blank screen, and you saw an opportunity, and you went out there, and you kind of created and changed, an entire industry by creating it. But then also, were you just walking down a beach or something similar to that, and then you saw Tony Little, and his life changed too. So, again, kudos to you for seeing things that were blank slates that other people didn't see, and then creating something out of that and creating a solution. Could you tell us a little bit about Tony Little and how he was working on the beach and working out, and how you stumbled upon him, and what's going on with that?
It's funny, Tony. So I live in St. Pete, Florida, Tampa area, Greater Tampa, and Tony Little was born and raised in that area himself, and so Tony was a personal trainer, and he was a bodybuilder, but his business was personally training bodybuilders. And so when I first got talking to him, I said, "Hey, Tony, bodybuilders seem to already be in shape. They got plenty of muscles, right?" He says, "No," he says, "but if a bodybuilder has a 6-pack, he wants an 8-pack, okay? So, or if he's got a little bit of flab in the glutes or the arms or whatever, I've developed a system that targets their body parts, so I can actually show them how to get those, turn a 6-pack into 8, how to get those, the underarm flabs or the love handles, get rid of those targeted body parts, because a lot of times these bodybuilders want to work on specific things." So he had developed a 6-step sequence to targeting any body part and working it out. And this is what he was doing with bodybuilders in St. Pete, Florida. And so once we came up with the idea to take it to the masses, let's not just sell this to bodybuilders. Let's create a system that we can sell to the masses. And there's various things that I look for in products, but I think the first thing I look for is a mass market product. So why won't women all across America, or men all across America, not just bodybuilders, want to target body parts too? So we created Target Training, a video series, put it on videotapes and DVDs, and then took that out to the world. And that took off like you wouldn't believe. That first project with Tony Little did over $350 million, and this was from a meeting with him in 1989. So we're going back close to 30 years ago. And so Tony became not just a personal trainer, he then became America's personal trainer, because he was on TV every day, all over the place. In fact, we started on Discovery Channel with him, and then as other opportunities became available, not just in the U.S., we took him from the U.S. to England to Germany, and we dubbed it into foreign languages. And Tony was in 100 countries in 20 languages at one point, because all we had to do was take the U.S. version of the show and dub it into the foreign language. So we had him in Japan, we had him in Malaysia, we had him in Australia, New Zealand, you name it. Tony Little was a global brand. And then we started doing more shows. So we went from Target Training to the Ab Isolator to the Gazelle. And believe it or not, someone is, you look at Tony Little, you see him on Home Shopping Network today still. He's done over $3 billion in sales, okay? I mean, it's mind-blowing when you think somebody like Tony can have that kind of track record. But he's one of the hardest-working guys that you'll meet, too, by the way. He's a true entrepreneur and an amazing guy that also has morphed very well with his business into the newest and latest and greatest of opportunities. And, just one quick thing last thing on Tony, and I'll flip it back to you, Ronald, is he isn't just selling fitness products and gazelles and things like that. Tony is also now selling the bison meats, which are a healthier kind of a meat. So from bison steaks to bison burgers to bison hot dogs to all kinds of health-related products and things. So, he's morphed very well as a fitness guy into a health advocate across the board, and now he's got a business doing 30, 40, 50 million a year type of thing on Home Shopping Network still, almost 30 years later.
Yeah, and what rings to me about a couple with both these stories and other things that I know about you that some of the listeners may or may not be aware of is innovation. You have seen things that existed in a way, but then you're like an innovator. It's not just being an entrepreneur, but you're an innovator. You're creating new things, new concepts, taking something that's existing and changing the way or adding to it, and then just increasing the benefits and value and the results that it gives to the people who now digest it or learn of it. So what do you think about that, being an innovator?
Well, I think that's ultimately what entrepreneurs do and what they need to do. And so, I go back to my roots, as 45 years ago when I started my first business when I was in high school. I created, some things to make some capital. But, when I wanted to really find out what do I want to do as an entrepreneur, I started a business brokerage company to sell businesses because I wanted to see the inner workings of every kind of an industry out there. So here I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I was sitting there with a business brokerage company selling pizza parlors, restaurants, delicatessens, flower shops, nightclubs, small manufacturing companies, you name it. But I had the books and records of all these companies, so I got to see the leases and the terms and the employee costs and the food costs and the percentages. And I call it my curiosity overload days. So I was doing this so I could see what was being innovated in every industry across the board. So I kind of programmed my entrepreneurial psyche with the ability to be on top of what innovations are happening. I mean, I would sell candy shops and flower shops, and so I got to see what are the latest and the greatest of all these industries that are happening because I was selling their businesses and got a chance to work with them and also partner with them. So I call it my pre-Shark days. This was my mini Shark days before I ever got on Shark Tank and got that phone call from Mark Burnett to go on the show. I was positioning myself, and I think it's we've talked here about the fact that yes, I did some innovation, but and then people say, well, hey, you were lucky to be there at the right place at the right time, but I don't think it's so much luck as it is programming yourself to be at the right place at the right time, and this was my curiosity overload kind of thing, so. It's exciting to be able to be on the ground floor of new things happening.
Yep, I love it. And when people say that you were lucky or something, they don't understand that, when they see somebody that's really successful today, that's usually 5, 10, 15 years after all the blood, sweat, and tears, right? And when you practice and you have preparation, and that practice and preparation meets opportunity, that's when you're going to shine. But if you don't have that practice and preparation, and that same opportunity comes along, you're not going to shine, and the opportunity may not come along either at all. So, tell us about Shark Tank and stuff.
Yeah, so, I got a phone call one day, and, of course, I had, as we mentioned here, I've done quite a bit of different products. I mentioned celebrities, and I'd been doing business with the Kardashian family, the Jenner family, the Hilton family, the Tony Littles, the George Foremans, Jack LaLanne's. And so I'm sitting there one day, and Mark Burnett had called and said, hey, can you come out and talk to me? I've got a new show I'm doing called Shark Tank. And I said, hey, Mark, that sounds interesting. I said, what's it all? I know you do, The Apprentice and Survivor and some great shows. What's Shark Tank all about? He said, listen, just come on out. I'll pick up your airfare. We'll talk about it when you get here. And so I got off the phone, and I was excited. I told my wife, I said, hey, you won't believe it. I got Mark Burnett wants me to come out to talk to him about this new show he's doing called Shark Tank. And she said, Kevin, I'd be really careful about that. And he said, you've seen that Survivor show? You know what he does to those people on that island? What's he going to be doing to people on a show called Shark Tank? Okay, so I'm like, when I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? That's a good question. Is what is Shark Tank, right? Well, so it's funny to think about it in that way, because the original pilot, when we shot it, there were actually tanks with sharks swimming in them. And, there was rumor that, when they came out to get on the show, if they didn't get the money, that they'd get thrown into a tank or something, right? But actually none of that ever happened. But, as it turned out, obviously, Shark Tank is an unbelievably successful business show, probably the #1 business reality show in the world. It runs all over the world. And so I'm really psyched that I've had a chance to be associated with the brand. For going on 10 years now. That phone call came in 2008, and here we are, 2017, 9 years later, and Shark Tank is still a powerful show. And I did 175 plus segments on the show, and they continue to rerun all around the world now, because now Shark Tank goes into Australia and Brazil and Europe. It's there's a Shark Tank running in Mexico, and there's one running in Europe, and all different kinds of local channels that do the local version of it. So bottom line is it's been something really cool for a lot of entrepreneurs. One of the amazing things that I get, people will stop me as I'm walking around or at a trade show or walking down the street and say, my kids really love that show. And that is one of the most amazing things, because when I hear that, whether it's high school students, college students, even some kids in grade school that sit with their parents and watch the show and learn about valuation and marketing and things that Shark Tank has a way of helping people understand. I think it's become a powerful show for families to actually sit and watch, and it's obviously, with the ratings and the reruns on CNBC, there's north of 20 million people a week watching Shark Tank. So it's pretty powerful. If you do the math, 20 million people a week for the last 9 years or so, it's had a really good run, and it's taught a lot of people a lot of things. And I'm proud to say that I had a decent little run with it. So I'm glad to hear you like it too, Ronald. That's good.
Yeah, I definitely like it, and I myself, I own a couple of digital marketing media companies, and we help people online as well have a presence and attract clients. But one of the things that I like about Shark Tank is the things that you just covered. I mean, my type of business wouldn't go on that show, but people who have products to sell, and even if one of the sharks don't pick up and do business with them, the feedback that they get when they're on the show, and I'm sure it's longer than the 2 or 3 minutes that we actually see. They just cut it up into pieces. But also the preparation to get onto the show, to prepare yourself, to get that 2 or 3 minutes or however long they have that pitch down, to get their products in presentable fashion. That whole process, I mean, it's really, I think it's a great thing for people who are trying to come up. And again, even if it doesn't work out for them where somebody does business with them, the education they got in the process, I think, is fundamentally sound.
And some of those tapings would go an hour to 2 hours, believe it or not, and you'll see, 3 or 4 minutes. So yeah, and it would take some people nowadays. It can take years to get on that show, not just months, but years, because of the backlog of people that they have that want to be on the show. So it's powerful.
Yeah. How about kitty litter?
Oh yeah. Hey, City Kitty is one of my favorites. It's been a great. Who would have guessed that something, a product that teaches cats how to be toilet trained, could be a multi-million-dollar success? It's only on Shark Tank.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I really appreciated that. That was funny, and especially when you have more time to tell a story and you have because I've been at several of your presentations and we've met several times. The listeners, some may or may not have, but I encourage everybody, if you have an opportunity to get to one of Kevin's events, or he has groups that have put on events and call Kevin in as a presenter, definitely try to get out there. I want to be cautious of your time. I mean, I'm willing to talk as long as you want. We have plenty of time, but if you have some advice for somebody who's just starting out, I like the fact that, in one thing, when somebody's an entrepreneur and they're starting a business, I mean, technically, to be an entrepreneur and start a business, they could start a barbershop, they could start a restaurant, but so that still makes them an entrepreneur. But seeing something and being an innovator, I think the bigger the problem you solve, the more money you're going to make and the more impact you're going to have on people's lives in the world. So I think, I do think there's a difference between just being an entrepreneur and being an innovator as well as an entrepreneur. Can you just give people who are starting out as entrepreneurs and or innovators just some advice?
Yeah. So I think thanks for saying that. And in the interest of time, I think let me give you some closing thoughts on that, because I think entrepreneurs, I'll be running through the airport, and that my life seems to be, yesterday I was in Las Vegas, today I'm in Vancouver, tomorrow I'm in Los Angeles. It's like it's always a run to the next town, to the next presentation, and hey, it's a good thing for me to be able to go out and connect with a lot of people. Someone will grab me as I'm running to the airport. Hey, do you have just one tip that you give me? And I think as a closing thought here, I'll leave something I think that is pretty decent and powerful. That's been a good thing for me, and it wasn't something I did always until I learned that one of the most powerful things I think an entrepreneur can do is to, when you start a business, is surround yourself, and I call it creating a dream team or an advisory board around yourself, okay? And I don't care how big or small your business is. You mentioned barber shops or flower shops or whatever, and there's nothing that says you can't have some level of advisory kind of people surrounding you to give you advice on new profit centers, and as you've talked, Ronald, the business that you're in is internet marketing. It's like too many people that are in business right now aren't taking advantage of some of the internet and digital opportunities that are out there. And so if you have a dream team that consists of, maybe if you're good in operations or finance, what about marketing and digital marketing and sales and some of these other things? Or in my case, as I'm good at marketing, I needed to surround myself with finance people and operations people and that kind of thing. So I think that the concept of surrounding yourself with some experts, and I'm not talking about, paying people big salaries. I'm talking about getting them to join like an advisory board. I sit on dozens of advisory boards, and so when I'm on an advisory board, those companies are getting my 45 years of entrepreneurial experience wrapped up in a one-shot situation. So just go for the best that you can get, and really kind of focus on getting some key people of influence involved in your business with you. And there's ways that people can be compensated for that. But when you get this team that you can bounce ideas off of, and you can, when you have ups or downs or whatever, you can always find out what would they do, how would they deal with some of these issues. You get a chance to morph through some of the trials and tribulations of being an entrepreneur. So that's, in the old days, I tried to do it myself. Nowadays, I surround myself with a dream team. So if I have a parting thought, I think that's what I'm going to leave folks with here today is when you do this, you get the experience of all of these advisors with you. And just the last thought is I say that your net worth is equal to your network of people that you have around you. Okay, so the smarter the people are around you, the more your net worth ultimately is going to increase, because they're going to push you to be more successful and to understand that the best opportunities that are available in your industry at that particular time. So Ronald, I want to thank you for having me today. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope some of the listeners have gained a little bit, and love to hear from anybody that wants to reach out and say hello. So thanks for having me on today.
Kevin, thank you. It's been our pleasure to have you on. But before you go, is there a book, a course, a free giveaway, a website, anything that you would like to give the listeners so they can contact you, learn more about you, any product or service that maybe they can avail themselves of?
Sure.
And thank you again for being on the show.
I have a great website.
Thank you so much.
It's Kevin. My website is kevinharrington.tv. And that's a great place to check out. There's some books there that you can download free of charge. I also have just a special email for any of your listeners if they have a specific interest on business or looking for some help in building their business. They can email me directly, and I personally respond to these emails. Sometimes it's at 2 a.m. on a travel schedule somewhere, but it's Kevin@KevinHarrington.tv. And Kevin and Harrington is spelled Harrington. So Kevin@KevinHarrington.tv is a good email. And the KevinHarrington.tv is a great website to check out also.
Kevin, and listeners, you've just received Kevin's personal email on top of giving us some excellent information through this episode. So thank you so much, Kevin. It's really great, and good luck with all these travels.
It's been a pleasure, Ronald. Thank you so much, and you guys have a great week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Kevin. Have a great day. Bye-bye.